Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
It's a Tuesday morning. We put a people's poll out, perhaps thinking that there was some risk on Brentford, Manchester United, but not knowing how much risk on Brentford, Manchester United. And now we have a topic to discuss. Do you want to give the runners and riders as we do in the people's poll, James, and what won? Obviously.
I shall. And then I'll give this a timestamp. There were three choices for the people's poll and a very unanimous vote this week from the Twitter community. So one topic up for debate was the impact of the UEFA draws. Obviously, the Champions League, Europa League and Europa Conference League draws were yesterday. The Champions League draw got ballsed up, quite literally. Very, very humorous. There was rumours at one stage that they were going to award the Champions League to Max Verstappen. Another topic up for debate was, is there too much football at the moment? I mean, it's kind of on trend with partly what we were about to talk about. Seems like Victor Lindelof having to come off at the weekend, struggling for breath. You wonder if that's COVID related. We don't know. And obviously, unfortunately, we've heard reports, and Guillaume Balagay's reported it, that Sergio Aguero is likely to announce his retirement for football tomorrow. Is incredibly sad. We've had instances of players collapsing on the pitch. The Fabrice Mwamba incident that I experienced back in 2012 was a completely isolated incident at the time that nobody compared it really to anything. We've had like 5 or 6 players at top level football collapse over the last 12 months or so, which is concerning. But the topic you have voted for is, and this is exactly what I said in the tweet, COVID and the Premier League. What's the current situation? And obviously since that tweet, the situation has changed somewhat. Again, to timestamp this, it is approaching 8:30 a.m. on Tuesday, the 14th of December. And we can confirm that Brentford versus Manchester United has been postponed.
Yep, and that was tonight. So
10 to midnight, Manchester United announced.
That was as a result of obviously an outbreak at their training complex. Am I right?
Yes, correct. My understanding at the moment, and for those who've got Manchester United FPL assets, I suggest you keep your eye on the prize, and people are well in the know. People like Samuel Luckhurst is a good journalist to follow, covers Manchester United locally for United. My understanding at the moment is the training ground has been closed for 1 day.
Right.
Now,
give it a deep clean.
Tottenham's was obviously closed for 4 days, and it went on quite a while in terms of the announcement. I think most of us were expecting the postponement, but obviously the longer it goes, you think you're not going to let people travel down south if this game is going to be postponed. A decision really needs to be made last night. And it got to about 10 o'clock and I started thinking, is this game going to be on? And the one thing we still don't really know with accuracy with United is how many COVID cases did they actually have?
Yeah,
I haven't actually seen a number to say.
How many are first team players versus backroom staff? Obviously, the squad was in Norwich at the weekend when this kind of outbreak perhaps happened and started. So now it's a case of, well, could the first team have gone straight from Norwich to Brentford, potentially, like straight to London?
No, 100% they've gone straight back to Manchester on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, then perhaps when they left Norwich, they wouldn't have known what the severity of the situation was going to be. This is the start. This is the start of a very choppy Christmas period.
Do you think people mention circuit break, the idea of Premier League shuts down for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long? Do you think that's a serious consideration at this moment, to be in a position where we've had 1 game postponed last week? And at the moment, the intention is for Tottenham to play at Leicester on Thursday. But obviously, if the situation worsens, we're not going to know. Again, in relation to the FPL deadline, you're probably not going to get anyone say, oh, yeah, 100% the game's on before the deadline, because shit could get worse. And you're unlikely to find out if it's definitely postponed before deadline either. I suspect at the moment, Tottenham intend to play, is my understanding. What do you think of the idea of Premier League going, okay, this is clearly spreading through the league at the moment. Let's stop. Let's just pause and put everything off.
No, I don't think it has spread through the league. This is the thing, James. My personal opinion right now is that you've had 2 clubs that have had issues, Spurs and United, and then a handful of cases at other clubs, Norwich Villa, so on. I think the Premier League announced yesterday that they'd had the highest number of cases in their testing rounds of testing that they do, 48 cases or something like that.
42, I think it was.
42, was it? Yeah. That's nothing compared to previous. I think that with the spread of Omicron, what we've seen, and Bojo talked about it on Sunday, it's the start. So if we do a circuit breaker now at the start and then resume when Omicron is at its peak, it's not going to really help because we're just all going to get it then. So I think it's a case of we're still early. If the data from South Africa and everywhere else is right, and that it's doubling week on week in terms of the number of cases, then we're just at the start of the curve. So I don't think now is the right time. A circuit breaker is probably a good idea, but I think it's too early in this wave to perhaps do it. But it just happens to be that it's the most bonkers time of the season.
Yeah, exactly that as well.
We're playing all the time. So a 2-week circuit break now is completely different to a 2-week circuit break in the middle of January or when there's no European football as well. I mean, obviously that's all wrapped up now, but had it been a week ago. So yeah, it's not, for me, it's not the right time to have a circuit break, although probably in the new year, depending on how things progress, it might make sense. But I feel like the Premier League will have numbers that they will be looking at that will indicate when's the right time.
Can you just elaborate on why now would not be the right time? Because my instinct to look at it from the outside would be, well, this shit's spreading quickly, this new Omicron variant of COVID, stop now. Why rather stop when it's maybe its peak?
I suppose I don't think I'm looking at the previous test results here, Jay. So the 29th of November to the 5th of December, 12. And then if we're going backwards,
Be
all the way
single
up
digit
to,
numbers.
It's all, 1, 2, 3, 16.
What's really alarmed people, so in terms of spread of league now, 42 positive cases. That's across coaching and staff at all Premier League clubs. Now we can say with definite that over a third of that is at Tottenham.
Correct.
We don't know the number.
So
at
the point
United.
being, so Premier League footballers, what are they going to do? Go into lockdown? Because the guys at Spurs, someone picked up COVID, unlikely from within Spurs, from somewhere else, and brought it into Spurs, right? So the players stopping football is such a small, minute drop in the ocean of what's going on in the wider world. Them stopping football is not going to stop the spread of Omicron.
No.
Omicron's going to spread
I know that
anyway.
In terms of wider scale, it's not going to stop. But you have to consider the current safety of the footballers, right?
Yeah, understood. But then,
I don't think we can compare when football should stop to, i.e., if the UK is going to go into a full lockdown. Like I've heard suggestions that the UK could end up going into kind of a full lockdown again immediately after Christmas. Yeah. So in a couple of weeks when it's hitting more that peak. I don't think we can compare football in the same way to that, if that makes sense. I'm not sure that works in the same way, because we've got to think about the individuals and how they're spreading and coming into contact with each other.
Omicron is at its early stages, right? So what it doesn't, I'm not trained in public health, but I feel like saying let's not play football while it's still finding its feet, but when it could be rife in 2 or 3 weeks, let's play football. I feel like there's going to be more cases, fans in the grounds, all of that kind of thing. I would be pro 2 weeks of behind closed doors, for example.
This makes me sad, you know that.
Yeah, I know. But I would be pro that, because it's the 60,000 fans that are going to end up transmitting more COVID to each other than the 25 players and 22 players and managers and staff and whatever else on the pitch and referees and whatever else.
The impression I get is the Premier League are desperate not to end up in a behind closed doors situation. Is the impression I get.
I think they're also desperate not to pause football just because of the amount. Look, we've now got 5 fixtures that need to be caught up because of Chelsea's Club World Cup and this COVID situation and so on.
I think, listen, if it has to go to behind closed doors football, it can. I think there is some suggestion based on what happened during the restart period back in 2020 that some television companies have already been in touch with the Premier League to kind of put pressure on and say, if you're cancelling games or if you're putting football behind closed doors, we want money back. Now, ethically, you and I know that's terrible, right? But the Premier League are going to be consciously aware of it. They're to refund a shit ton of money during that restart period in 2020. Anything bar the product that they are selling, which includes fans in a football stadium, is going to cost the Premier League and its clubs money. Therefore, they don't want to go down the route. I also get the impression from the fact that government hasn't put any restrictions in place yet, is that shutting down major events right now seems like kind of a last strategy. Like it'll almost come at the point of you can't go to football and you can't leave your house. Feels like at the moment it will come together rather than, okay, yeah, you can go to work if you need to. I feel like almost like that's going to stop before we stop people going into football stadiums.
But he's already has, hasn't he? He said work from home if you can.
Well, yeah, but he's not saying 60,000 people
Why
can't
we're
go
on Zoom, mate?
can't go
Well,
to
we can't
Tottenham or West Ham this weekend.
I know, because the government is scared. In the same way the Premier League is scared of losing money, pre-Christmas, the government said, okay, you can only stay, you've got to stay at home now. The country's going to, parts of the country, parts of the population are going to get pretty pissed off about it. And they've also got to deal with the issue of their hypocrisy from last year. So as soon as they start saying to people, if all of that stuff hadn't come out last week about the Christmas parties at Downing Street and so on, they might have a little bit more of a podium to stand on and say, look, okay, you need to do this, that, and the other. They've obviously undermined themselves where they don't want to be then seen to be hypocritical, which is also.
Can you, for the non-UK listeners, can you just give them a very brief summary of what happened last year?
Yeah, Boris Johnson happened. Boris Johnson happened. Obviously, the government, there's some very disturbing video footage out there of people from Downing Street and both politicians and employees, civil servants there talking about gatherings that were happening, wine and cheese evenings and quizzes and all sorts, and video of Boris Johnson there when the rest of the country had been told that they had to stay at home indoors, not mix with anyone.
Don't go and
no
see
Christmas
your mum.
parties.
Yeah,
no
exactly.
Nothing. And obviously behind closed doors there it was going on. And so, yeah, they've kind of lost all credibility there. And I think that's a massive part of why they're not being a little bit stricter at the moment.
One thing I do briefly want to touch on, because I think we should come back to the emotion of potentially going to the football, that's really annoying me, just why I mentioned is I keep seeing people say, oh, how are they getting it? So I want to give you a personal example of how easy it is to get this at the moment. My son, as Suj knows, has been a little bit sick the last few days. So generally, you have a vomiting bug or anything like that, standard procedure, 48 hours, they don't go near anyone, right? Mm-hmm. He hasn't been in nursery yesterday. He's not going to nursery today. We took him for a COVID test yesterday because the nursery have said you got to get him checked for COVID. That's their kind of new guidelines.
Prove that he's negative.
Exactly that, right?
And it's common sense, makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. So we took him for a test yesterday. Now, obviously, if he passes it, he's not going to nursery for all of this week. He's not going to nursery for all of next week. And that's going to be a major headache for me and the wife. Now, we've done guidelines properly. There's nothing to say that everybody else will, because there's a lot of other people look at that and go, I really cannot afford to have my son. Imagine you're a single parent, you're working from home. I really can't afford to have my child with me for 10 days. Whether that's right or wrong, people might make a decision to go, I think he's okay. Child who's 2-3 years old can't communicate and say, I don't feel well, goes to nursery, gives that to another child. That child who's 2 years old then goes home to his parent, and his dad then goes to training the next day and gives it to all his mates. Yeah,
it's too easy. And it's very transmissible as well. There's a few kids in my son's year at school that have suddenly picked up COVID. Where from, who knows, what knows. I picked up COVID in January. I don't know where from. You can't trace it. This is the thing, right?
It really annoys me that the culture of many people is, oh, there's a big breakout at a football club. Have they gone and had a party or something? Like, they're not all bad. A lot of them are normal people with normal
they're
families
in,
and
dressing
stuff.
Rooms, sharing showers and shit. Like, obviously, this stuff's going to happen. It's happened in all walks of life. All walks of life.
So the Premier League have
and the other problem, James, that we have is the damning statistic. 1 in 3 people that get COVID are asymptomatic. Like if you have no symptoms, you could have had COVID and given it to Harry, and you could be none the wiser.
Yeah, I don't.
There was one employee at work when I got COVID. There was only 3 or 4 people coming into the office at the time, so we could socially distance or whatever. Everybody went and got a test. Somebody at work was like, "I got COVID." She's like, "But I don't have any symptoms or anything." So, and she's like, "Okay, now I could have passed it on to other people without knowing." So if 1 in 3 asymptomatic, yeah, use a bit of common sense on that one.
The Premier League have obviously gone back to the emergency procedures that they had during that restart period. There was a call
players coming out separately and all that kind of stuff. Well, they were doing that anyway.
Well, they were doing that anyway. No, I think it's more in terms of training ground procedures and stuff like that. And actual, I mean, I think the protocols on match day are actually, there's still quite a bit going on. But I think in terms of training grounds and stuff, there was a lot of relaxation on the procedures. And to be fair, like, rightly so, right? Life kind of went back to normal in a certain way. Richard Masters had a call with who's a Premier League chairman, had a call with all the Premier League clubs on Friday, said basically we need to go back to this. That was obviously off the decision of Brighton and Tottenham being postponed last weekend. That includes at the moment basically players getting checked before they even enter the training ground. So that'll be, many of you might have seen the scenes, I think particularly at Manchester United, ironically last year, of players driving up and getting like COVID tested at the gate, and not coming in basically until you've got confirmation and stuff.
Yeah, half an hour, you've got to wait, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's basically, it's going to go back to that by the looks of it, actually. You said to me yesterday that you weren't necessarily feeling comfortable about going to West Ham on Saturday.
I walked into the ground on Thursday night for the game against Zagreb, masked up. I think because I'd actually gone to the London Stadium and then took the train to Hackney Wick to go to Ribman, our famous rib guy, and then from Hackney Wick walked across to the ground. So I'd had to get a mask for the train journey, and so I picked one up. I was just wearing a mask. Happened to walk back across, kept my mask on, didn't think anything of it. Walked into the ground. I was like, there was not one. There might have been 1 or 2 people, old boys with masks on. Not a single person had a mask. I was like, this feels fucking a little bit.
It's worth saying, just for accuracy, that
you don't have to wear a mask.
Exactly. There's no guideline that you have to wear a mask in the football stadium.
But the back of my mind, I'm thinking, right, the news around Omicron is not great in the last couple of days. Cases are on the rise, and so on and so on and so on. And it was not a case of no, everybody's breaking the rules. It just made me feel uncomfortable that I was like in this environment, close to so many people, eating and drinking, and nobody's wearing any masks or anything. And there's clearly going to be COVID cases and stuff. It just made me feel particularly uncomfortable. And so, yeah, it got me thinking, like, do I really want to put myself in that environment and risk it? We've got situations now. We have our work Christmas do on Friday, and certain people are now saying that they don't want to come because they don't want to take the risk of catching COVID before Christmas because they got family coming around and so on and so on and so on. And you're like, okay, do I need to put myself in a risky situation before this break? My plan for Christmas, to be honest with you, is literally sit at home for a week and a half and do nothing anyway. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I just want to spend some time with the kids and relax. So I've got no problem with if I had to isolate, but I don't want to get COVID, let's be honest. But yeah, it was just looking around on the concourse with everybody eating and drinking. I don't see a single precaution or mask or anything here. And there's like thousands of us so close together. Obviously, it's going to spread COVID at the moment. And Omicron seems to be so much more transmissible. The numbers prove it.
When obviously football originally got shut down in March 2020, after it was kind of the original spread was Arsenal, wasn't it? It was kind of the one that tips it over the edge with Mikel Arteta. I remember when Mikel Arteta got COVID, literally everybody went, it's kind of in unison, right? That's it now. I called a football off. And I remember thinking, I'm sure it was Friday where it was like, right, all the games were tumbling like by the hour. And we were meant to play Manchester United at home on the Sunday. And I remember thinking, please call it off because I can't make the sensible decision not to go by myself.
Yeah. See, I'm feeling that it leads into one of the other topics that was in the people's polls. Is there too much football?
There is.
And I feel fatigued. Like even Thursday night going to watch Zagreb, it was really torn because part of me wanted to see the kids and support the kids because obviously they're getting their chance on a Thursday night. You don't want to play in front of a half-empty stadium. And part of me is like, again, it was full. 60,000 turned up, singing and dancing, making noise,
dancing as well. Yeah.
Well, listen, this is a story for Tottenham tomorrow. Remind me to ask you about the guy with the 2-year ban sitting just to my left at the Zagreb game, dancing. Yes. I think it was his first game back inside a football stadium after a 2-year ban, and I found my way I'd fucking ban him again for another 2 years. Anyway, yeah, I just feel a little bit of fatigue with the volume of games and the crowd. Yeah, I think there is that element playing into it a little bit as well.
Yeah, I just know that if Tottenham and Liverpool goes ahead on Sunday, I'm going.
And I'm not sure, lose a few listeners. I'm not sure if it was not Norwich and it was Liverpool or United or yourselves on Saturday, if I'd feel more motivated to want to go.
Maybe.
A little, and it's definitely part of it. But I'm likely to go, by the way, on Saturday to Norwich.
No,
I'm definitely not taking the kids.
I get your reservations, and mine would be similar in the extent that I'm not going to be like going and having a beer in the ground for an hour and a half before the game, and I'm not going to be doing the same afterwards. And I may even
I'll probably wear my mask, wear my gloves, not touch anything.
I may even probably more importantly than actually in the stadium, I might alter my route in terms of coming home.
Yeah.
Going's okay, but coming home, I know I'm going to be standing within half a foot of someone, probably touching shoulder to shoulder on the train coming back. I'm not convinced that I want to be doing that. That I get. So I might take a long walk up to Edmonton Green and get a bus back rather than get on that train. So get that. So I don't know if there's a consciousness in the psyche of that, and that's the big thing we said in the past about football when people were saying, oh, everyone's doing this, and we got to remember you're trying to get 60,000 people into one place, and the closer it is to kick off before and afterwards, the worse it's going to be. So like a sensible idea really is to go 2 hours before, find a quiet spot for something to eat or something and
hide.
Exactly that. And then obviously, like I said, make a different route in terms of going back on that. Just note for those who are going to football, from tomorrow night, i.e. Wednesday, it's going to be government requirement that people show a valid COVID pass, which is basically confirmation that you've been jabbed at least twice with vaccination, or you need to provide confirmation of a negative lateral flow test within the previous 24 hours. I know that the clubs have been working frantically to employ more stewards because it is believed that every single person is going to be checked. If you are going to a football ground this week, may I suggest you don't leave it to 2 minutes before kickoff to get in the ground, because if you do, you are not going to see kickoff. Some of these queues, I'm not too concerned at Tottenham because I know Tottenham's technological advances is ahead of everybody else, and they'll be able to do it very quickly. But not everybody has like the simple scanners and stuff.
Yeah,
it will be
and
literal eye test.
They work pretty fine.
Eye test looking for everybody else and stuff. So
our problem is usually actually more the security than it is.
Do you have like a scanner when you go in?
Yeah, so we have a cordon.
COVID pass.
We have a cordon, so the concourse around the ground. No, not for a COVID pass. We just have a scanner for tickets. That's it. No one checks COVID pass. Well, I've never had my COVID pass.
Oh, right. If you've got a scan, if they scan the tickets, they'll probably scan the COVID passes.
Right.
I would have thought.
Yeah. The bottlenecks at us is always at the security checks, which are the most pointless things I've seen ever.
Yes, I agree with that, by the way.
It's like I get tapped down. Sometimes they're like, what have you got in your pockets? I'm like, keys in my phone. They're like, off you go. And sometimes it's like the full 360, empty your pockets, put everything in the tray, pat me down, metal scanner. Stupid. But, you know my tricks anyway. If anyone wants to know my tricks, not that I take anything that you're not allowed into the ground. I
do.
Well, at Tottenham.
I take a bottle of water into the ground every single game.
But that's the only thing. Yeah. And how'd you get it in?
You're not allowed.
How'd you get it in?
pocket, mate.
Yeah, exactly. And you see that they're telling everybody, take your lid off, take your lid off, take your lid off. Because I've always usually got my kids with me. It goes in the kids' bag. And they don't say nothing for the kids.
I've always got a spare lid with me, mate.
Yeah. Isn't it stupid? Isn't it stupid? And it's like, you can't take bottles in, but if my kids have got a water bottle in their rucksack which they're taking in with them, that's fine.
I've had it a few times. You get pinched, it's like, oh, sorry, and they say take your lid off. Okay, fine. So hold the bottle of water while I'm getting in the ground, and I get out of sight. I get the staircase and put another lid on.
Exactly. Let's tell the listeners, what do you think? You're tripled up in United. Obviously, we've got this one postponement. Question number one for you is: do you think any other games from this midweek set of fixtures is likely to be postponed? Is that factoring into your decision making in any way?
Norwich and Villa is obviously tonight, and there has been a few issues at Norwich and Villa. I'm working on the assumption that's going to be okay. Brighton and Wolves, there's a little bit of doubt tomorrow night. Leicester Tottenham is obviously Thursday. The one bit of advice I would give FPL managers is put your vice captaincy on someone playing tonight. Particularly if there is a leak of the Manchester City team from somewhere he's playing or so, and you've got that player. Like if Cancelo had not been suspended, it'd have been my vice captain this week. And that's purely on the basis that Thursday's a long time away.
Carl Walker, here we go.
Now, do you know what, Suj? I don't even mind that. I don't even mind that. And that's just purely because Thursday is a long time away.
Yeah.
And there is no indication at the moment that there'll be a problem with the Chelsea, Everton or the Liverpool Newcastle games. We know there could be an issue with the Leicester Tottenham game. But the way this situation has moved, I feel like a lot could potentially suddenly happen within a 24-hour period. And I think it would be prudent to put your vice captaincy on someone playing tonight if you can. In terms of what am I doing? I think, I've obviously got the 3 United. So I've been a bit unfortunate, but was obviously fortunate last week to be on wildcard. So I think I'm going -4. I'm getting rid of the 3.9 million keeper, getting in Backman. And I'm going to go Ronaldo, probably not 100% decided, probably going to go to Ollie Watkins, with the idea being that, if United is postponed on Saturday, then Watkins will pay back the hit, obviously just in appearance points. I'd say he's nailed. He's got 2 good fixtures, Norwich, Burnley. And then the idea being that in 19, I can either go back to Ronaldo or decide I'm staying at that money value level and then put more money into the midfield and defence. That's just a loose plan, but I'm also it's going to have to wait late on the decision. I ain't doing shit till I got all the team news.
Yeah, and that's a challenge.
And we probably won't even get a team news for the 6 teams playing on Thursday, by the way, either.
My reserve goalkeeper is Ben Foster at the moment, and I have no money. And the cheapest place I can go to get a playing keeper would be Backman. No use there. So Ronaldo has to go for me. My initial thoughts were I wanted to stay in that premium value, and I like Kane's fixture against Leicester on Thursday.
I can't believe you're saying this.
They're crap defensively. You're telling me they get to clean sheet against Newcastle.
You like the fixture that might not even happen.
Well, look, yeah, if it doesn't, it doesn't. But then my challenge with Kane, what I didn't realise when we spoke off earlier is that you've then got Liverpool, and I don't like that fixture for Kane.
Well, exactly.
And if Ronaldo's next game is also postponed, then I'm only going to want to move Kane on again.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge there. I want to stay premium. I'm going to go keeperless. That's one thing I'm going to say about this midweek set of fixtures. And the reason I'm happy to go keeperless is that I think there's a lot of teams that are not going to end up with 11 players. There'll be 9s and 10s kicking about because of what's going on. So going down to 10 is fine. And the -4 to fix my keeper situation when the upside of a clean sheet is 4 points anyway. The odds are not in my favour. So I just don't feel like I can be bothered with that one. The only challenge is obviously the United game at the weekend is also off.
My outlook on terms of getting Backman is look, the 2 Watford games aren't too bad. So it's Burnley away and Palace at home. There might be something in there, and it gives me the kind of security of having a sub goalkeeper at least until Ben Foster's back available. If it's then going to be another headache and Foster's back in, then that's then going to be cheaper to move that sideways. In terms of you wanting premiums, I've obviously given thought to Vardy and Lukaku. I much prefer Vardy than Kane. He's got Tottenham this week and then Everton away at the weekend. The problem is the off-put with Vardy is He hasn't played the last 2 Premier League games, but I'd expect him to play the next 2. And obviously, you can't 100% guarantee the game's going to go ahead. Be a sick and take a -4 from one player who isn't playing to another player who also isn't playing. It's similar with Lukaku in the sense, I'm not sure I want to buy a player who's playing on Thursday at the moment. I'd rather like Watkins playing tonight. It's as close as secure I can be to know that a player's going to play. He's got Norwich and Burnley. They're decent fixtures. I'm not actually bothered whether he plays up front or out wide if it's going to be that short term. And obviously Lukaku's coming back from injury as well. It's not ideal. Is he going to play Thursday and Sunday in any case? So I think Watkins is the one I'm looking at for the 2 games primarily.
Yeah. The only other thing I would add is that I woke up at 7:30 or 7 or whatever it was this morning. And that's when I looked on my phone and saw that the game had been postponed. So I haven't done any deep dissection into what other options are available, what strategy I could go down. Because I could also downgrade even cheaper and then use the money elsewhere. I don't want to take a hit though.
No, neither do I particularly. Like even I said to you, like
I'd rather go 9 or 10 players midweek, not use a transfer and know what's happening for the weekend, have a bit of a clearer picture, and then take a hit at the weekend, like 3 transfers at the weekend. So then I would be more comfortable just jumping on it now.
Yeah, I think for me though, I'd look at it with justification and say if it's going to look like United and Brighton is off at the weekend, then the justification in the hit is immediate in terms of it can't be any worse. It can, but in theory, if Watkins blanks twice, that's the 4 points back. Whereas Ronaldo would have been getting me none anyway. And obviously, with me having 3 United players, I haven't got much coverage on the bench. I've obviously got Cancelo suspended tonight, like a lot of people as well. So I think the justification would be there for the hit personally. Just before we finish, so just a couple of points in terms of when games be rearranged, because a few people have obviously pointed out that if United and Brighton is postponed at the weekend, obviously, in theory, the game could be moved to immediately to next midweek. That's not the case in the Brentford Manchester United fixture because Brentford are still in the Carabao Cup. It's Carabao Cup fixtures next midweek. In theory,
it doesn't really help fans and what have you, though, does it?
Thank you very much, Suj. The major difference between now and last year is at the moment the fans are still going. Now, if suddenly the government goes on Friday, that's it, everyone's out of football stadiums, then Man United and Brighton might be next midweek. But it's completely unfair on the Brighton fans and obviously a load of Manchester United fans travelling up from south as well to expect them to rearrange their journeys at such short notice. It's extremely unlikely that United and Brighton would be played next midweek. Plus, we've obviously got confirmation now of the Champions League dates. So United have obviously got 2 dates free because of Champions League. Manchester United are also not in the Carabao Cup, so the semi-final nights are free if they want to put a Premier League game in there. There seems no logical sense, if the game's going to be postponed, that they have to rush it in. There are available nights for Manchester United. One of the major problems, of course, if there was a circuit break, is Chelsea. Chelsea got to play this Club World Cup. We know Brighton and Arsenal games are going to be postponed in 24 and 25 due to their entry into that Mickey Mouse tournament, which they won't call Mickey if they win. Their 3 midweeks are now going to be the game week 25. That midweek afterwards is free for them. So they're playing the Champions League the midweek afterwards. So it could be that Chelsea don't even blank now in that game week. It might be they only blank in 24. And their other available game week is after game week 29. So even for Chelsea, there is a couple of spots for the Brighton and the Arsenal games that have been postponed. You'd say Chelsea get to the Carabao Cup final. Those are the 2 obvious dates, the midweeks of 25 and 29, to get those Brighton and Arsenal games played. And for everybody else, there is somewhere. The more difficult ones are, say Leicester winning the Carabao Cup semi-final, and they're now in the Europa Conference League. Their midweeks become quite tight to like fit in, say, Leicester versus Tottenham as a rearranged fixture. So I don't think there's going to be a mass rush to rearrange fixtures, at least not till after them Carabao quarterfinals are known. Then there's a few games can get done in January. But as I said to you previously, like I've got a ticket for Burnley away in January. If they suddenly turn around, if we lose to West Ham in the cup, and they suddenly go, yeah, James, Burnley away Wednesday, January the 4th, I don't think I'm going. But they can have my ticket back. It's too much hassle. to do it at that short notice. So you've got to consider the impact for fans and stuff. So I don't think there's going to be a rush to rearrange too many of these postponed games. It's more the critical one would obviously be Chelsea if they lost the game at some point. There's really no dates for them to fit stuff in. Then next priority would probably be Leicester if Leicester Tottenham got postponed. But I don't. You like United Brighton next Wednesday if it's postponed on Saturday. I can't see that personally. Doesn't make sense if fans are still going.
There we go. There's your people's poll for Tuesday. Good luck with getting your team set up and whatever decisions you do have to make. Make sure you're subscribed to the pod. And if you head over to youtube.com/Planet FPL, James will be deadline streaming at 5:30 today. Is it 5:30? 6:30 deadline, isn't it? 6:15 deadline now. Because the Norwich Villa game is 7:45.
Oh, very
kickoff.
good spot.
So we've got an extra 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Lovely, lovely.
Got time for a poo.
There we go. Make sure you stay safe, wash your hands and all the other guidelines and guidance and what have you. We'll be back at you tomorrow. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe. Be nice to each other. Good luck this week. Cue music, please, man child.